Welcome back to our Satisfactory Let's Play. Episode 6, we want to definitely complete phase 1 of the elevator, but I also have much more planned for you. If you want to see the previous episode, don't hesitate to check in the video description below to find the link to the playlist. In the last episode, we started making rotors over here, we also started making screws in this big one, and we have a new factory over here. So really using all of the space in this clearing. And in this factory we are making smart plating. We need 50 for phase 1, we definitely have that. Let's deliver it right away and then we can come back to the factory and discuss it. So let's just run over to our elevator, which I have changed color by the way. You know, if you don't know, it's X, right? You get to your customizer, then you can choose whatever color you want. We can deliver those 50 smart plates and seal it. And now send it into the sky. Look at this, it's going to jump. Not really sure how far, but as you can see, pretty far. That's why it's called a space elevator. And now our objective has been updated to phase 2, which is 500 of those smart plating and 500 of a second resource and 100 of a third, both of which we haven't seen before. But now maybe you understand why I actually made a smart plating factory. This wasn't just for this 50, it's because we need now 500, and even in the future we're gonna need even more. So this factory will help us to get to that 500. Now I do need to disclaim right away that it is actually not really 100% perfect productivity. So we're using only 90 iron ore and we also have several positive outputs. But the reason I'm saying it's not 100% productivity is because I'm not getting those outputs, right? They're just blocked inside the system. So all of those constructors, smelter, assemblers are not gonna work at 100%. The one element to highlight is that with this factory I just built, we are making 4 smart plating per minute. Not huge, but it will get us there. So then, as I said, you know, it's 90, so that means 3 smelters. Then with those smelters, we're going to do iron plates and rods. Some of those rods are going to also become screws. Then we're gonna use all of this, you know, the plates, the rods and the screws to make the reinforced iron plates and the rotors. And then those rotors and reinforced iron plates are going into smart plating assembler, actually 2 of these. Now, does that mean it's impossible to make it a 100% productivity? No, not at all. As you can see, I've done it over here. We have 4 smart plating and everything else is at 0. How do we do that? Well, instead of having, you know, the round number, for example, 4 constructors, now we only have 3.8 constructors. As I said in the previous episode, you know, this will be done either by underclocking or overclocking. In my opinion, I always suggest you do underclocking as long as those constructors, assemblers, etc. Now, if you're talking about a resource node, you may want to do overclocking. So how does that work in practice? Well, if we look, for example, at our iron ore, instead of 120, we need 75. So you go into your miner and here, instead of having 120 parts per minute, you just input 75. And with that, we're going to also use a lot less electricity. You know, at 100%, we are using 5 megawatts. Now for 75, which is more than 60%, we are using half of it, 2.4. So it's also really good for electricity. And this is, by the way, one of the main reasons you want to have a 100% productivity, right, is that there's no waste, and in particular, there's no waste of electricity. But then we're gonna have to also do the same for all of the other buildings, right? For example, for the iron plates, this is only 0.6, or said differently, 60% productivity, right? So if you look over here, I'm a constructor, we have it at 60%. And this is taking some ingots, right? This is taking 18 per minute. So then you can go into the one over here and put 18 per minute. I've done the same, you know, this one, for example, is at 90%, making 27, because then this is going into 12 over here at 80%. And then over here, you know, 100%, 15. We could also put 90% and 90% there. That would be sort of the same effect. And then all the way at the back over here, we have the screws. And the screws over here, you know, this one is at 70%. And then for the screws, there's also another small complication, which is not so much, you know, based on the overclocking or anything like that. It's just that we need 148 screws per minute. our belt right now is limited to 120. So that is why we have two. We have this one over here, which is a level 2 because it's going to transport 100 per minute. And then we have this one over here, which is a level 1. So limited at 60 will actually transport the 48. And so this is what we need over here, right? Like we need 48 for the assembler, for reinforced iron plate, and then 100 for the rotors. So indeed, if we go back to the logistic floor at the bottom, this is definitely not super pretty, but you can see my iron plates, my rods, and then the two screws over here. There's one screw that's going over here into a level 2. This is going with the rods. Then we have the plates that are going in the back over here with those rods. Here we're making the reinforced plates. Here we're making the rotors. And then all of this is going to go into two other assemblers. Now over here you can see I'm using 2 levels. You could do it differently like I did last time in the copper factory if you remember, but I felt over here it was nice. And also I've used only belts. You could also, if you wanted, use elevators, but not that the elevators you need actually 3. So if you wanted to use elevator, you need to actually go 3 levels. So right now I'm only at 2 levels, you need a 3rd level, which is totally fine, like I did just here, right? And then you delete those 2. Then you could use elevators like this, which sometimes make it a lot cleaner. I felt in this case it was quite simple, so I was fine, you know, just doing like this. So yeah, we have our rotors that are going down over here and over there, and then we have our plates coming from here, going there and there. Now my electricity just blew again because I think a couple of these are empty. Let's go fill them again. Okay, my electricity is back on. As you can see, I'm producing 430 megawatts per minute. I have a max consumption that is actually higher than this, but fortunately we're not actually getting at that max. So all good there. But yeah, with that, we now will be producing 4 of these smart plate per minute at 100% productivity when the whole thing really starts. Don't hesitate if you have any thought questions, you know, I'd love to answer them. Now, while I was building this whole factory, I saw over here a cave. So let's go see inside what we'll find. I'm pretty sure there's gonna be a spider or something, right? This definitely look a bit scary. Oh, and we have something over there. But first, let's see. It may be the spider that I killed in the previous episode. Just in case, I'm trying to be slightly careful. Yeah, I think we killed it already. And we find this summer loop whip, which honestly is a bit useless right now. This will be something for the full release. Still, I think if you know you're playing, just collect them so that you have them ready for the future. But now, more importantly, now that we have this factory and finish the phase 1, we can start tier 3. So let's go back to our hub to see what's happening with that. I built a couple more of these power stations, by the way. You may have missed that. But yeah, let's go into it, and we have tier 3 and 4 available now. Tier 3, this is coal power. Then vehicles will be able to start transporting resources. Basic steel production, which actually comes with a new building. It's not the smelters, it's a foundry, because you need 2 resources. In this case over here, we will need the coal and the iron to make the steel. We are also unlocking over here the versatile framework, which is the second resource for phase 2 of the elevators, right? And then for tier 4, we have a couple more advanced steel production, which unlocks the miner Mark II. So really good, you know, we're doubling our output. For example, if it's a normal node instead of 60, it's 120. If it's a pure node instead of 120, it's 240. Also the in-case industrial beams can be quite important. Stators, motors, it's quite complex resources, AV modular frame, and the third resource we need for phase 2 of the elevator, which is the automated wiring. Then we also have improved melee combat with the Xeno Basher, sort of like a long sword instead of what we have today. Hypertubes, which will enable us to move very long distances, also in your factories, for example, right? Instead of just using the stairs, we can use this. It does require electricity, so for sure we'll do that after we actually have electricity. And lastly, logistics Mark III. Remember that over here in advanced steel production, we are unlocking the miner Mark II, so we're gonna produce even more. So with that, we need to be able to transport even more, and that's where the belt Mark III comes into play. 270 resources per minute, a really cool one. Top of that, a couple of other things like the power storage will now be able to store power. But indeed, the key thing for sure is the core power. We want the core power for first and foremost. We need some reinforced iron plates we have. We need some rotors, we're actually missing one. And we need a bit more cables. But that's definitely doable. So let's get first the cables over here. I think it's this one. Yes. And then the motors on the other side. Perfect. First milestone of tier 3, which will finally unlock real power, unlimited power if you wish. We go into our resource tab. If you go into the power, we have the coal generator. This will take 2 resources, water and coal. It's basically we're burning the coal to boil the water, and now we have electricity. So a really important one. It will also cost quite a bit of resources. You can see at the bottom 20 reinforced plates, 10 rotors, and some cables. So once again, I hope you see that you really have to automate every single one of those resources, like the reinforced iron plates. Otherwise, you just can't you can't make all of this. And as I said, you're gonna need water, which is why we've also unlocked now in production the water extractor. You need to put it on water and not, just a small water when it rains. It needs to be a small lake or something like this. This will require also rotors and reinforced plates and a third new resource, which is the copper sheet. We weren't making that before, so let's talk about it just now. But before, last thing I wanted to mention is for the water, we also need to use pipes instead of those conveyor belts, right? Those pipes can transport obviously all those fluids. We may need pumps also to get it up depending on where we are building. And this requires again some copper sheet. Now let's drop into my storage this thing. And now while I was also collecting leaves, cutting trees, I also find these new nodes over here. We have some quartz, so great to get a bit more so we can advance in the MAM, but we also get the Caterium ore. And this one is definitely critical in the near future. I also want to automate that to find it, but for now at least we found a first trace of it. So let's go back into the MAM and see what we can unlock with it. Starting with the quartz, we could unlock either the quartz crystal or the silica. In both cases, it's not gonna really unlock tons of things right away, and we'll want to do both in the future, so it doesn't really matter that much. But more importantly, we now have the Caterium over here, which is definitely a long one and super important one. For now, we can't really do much except for the first one, which is actually super important because it will enable us now to start scan for it. So now if we press V, we see it over here, right? We had the quartz, but we also have the Caterium. And if we look at it, there are actually some that is not too far, if I remember correctly, in this direction. Let's see when it appears. Well, it's not so close. Oh, here, 900 meters. Then there's also quite a bit on that side. So in the near future, we'll definitely try to start automating some of that production. But before that, let's talk about copper sheets. Remember, this was our copper factory, right? We were using exactly the node to produce our wires and our cable. I'm definitely not going to destroy the whole thing to be able to also do copper sheet. In the future, we'll definitely find more copper, but the reality is actually that there's no copper anywhere close except this one that we're using. So what I decided is to be a bit sneaky. Let me show you by going on the top. So this is the floor where we're using all of our copper to make the wires, right? And then some of the wires are going down for cables. But this is where, all the copper is coming. But basically what I did is I added one more splitter over here so that instead of just going directly into the wire factories, some of it can also go this way. When all the machines are supposed to be working, this is not going to work at 100% productivity anymore. But given that many of these are actually full, right now it does send quite a bit of resources this way into 2 assemblers that you'll see, one over here and one over there. And then we have the resources, the copper sheet that are created and go down into this elevator. So let's go back up for me to show you. Again, I just added this small platform over here with 2 constructors. They're taking copper ore and making copper sheet. If you want to make it, very efficient, do note that this is 2 per 1. So 20 per minute, 10 per minute. But yeah, it's creating it, then going there. And then we have the elevator that's going down into this one there. We've already made quite a bit of reserve, so that's perfect. So now the last thing I definitely want to do in this episode is let's start looking for coal. We have unlocked it, so we can scan for it. You can also open the map, by the way, when you are looking for resources, so it's sometimes easier. For example, here we can see there's 4 of them. You can even see if they're pure or not. There's 2 over there that are a bit further. I think there's one coal that also on that side, but even further. Now, one thing we can also do is start placing a marker. You know, we can have a marker over here. You can highlight it if you want, you can make it different size, different shapes and all of this. But now the key thing is if I look at the map, I see it. So I know I need to go this way. Let's try to go this way. We're moving, going there. Oh, and I see some enemies. Be careful. Oh, here. Come for me. Oh, where's it? Where's it? Oh, jump. So anyway, let's go over here where we have a dropship. It's basically somebody like us, right? It was somebody sent before us that just didn't make it. And those dropships are super valuable for 2 reasons. One is around them, you will always find resources. For example, some circuit board. I definitely can't make that right now, so it's great to get some. Here, some reinforced iron plates, always good. Ooh, 2 enemies. We need to be careful. I don't have tons of health. Especially 2 at the same time. Okay. So do note that indeed those dropships are always defended. And some modular frames, which we haven't even started to make. Also some heat sinks. Another quite advanced materials. Is there anything else? You may want to take the leaves like I'm doing now, just to make sure you're not missing anything. And yeah, I think that's it. But then the second reason why these are so important is when you open them, you usually need to do something. For example, here it says we need some electricity. Sometimes you need to give some resources, but here's it's some electricity. I mean, not so hard because it's 30. What you do is you just build one of those biomass burner. Then you can connect it. Just need to give obviously something, for example, flowers. And here it is. And when you open it, you're going to get a hard drive. Your hard drive, remember, you can analyze them in the map and get some really cool rewards. And then we can just delete this. Perfect. Oh, and we can see there's another right on top over there, right? So what you may want to do is also just put a marker on the map so that you don't miss it. Okay, let's continue to try to go towards our new marker this side. We're gonna lose some health for sure going down. Over here, let me eat some berries to regain my health. Okay. Also because we are in a dangerous area here. It's a bit more berries there. Let's take them. And there's also some enemies. But right now, I'm just gonna run. Maybe you're gonna say that it is not what I should do, but I'm just gonna run to get to the core, and then we can always come back, start cleaning this area a bit more. You can also see over here one of those power slug, which will be defended. You can see several there. So let's run. Let's eat some berries in case we get attacked. And here we get into a new, interesting place because it has 1, some water, 2, it has all of the coal. The coal is just on the other side, and it also has a drop pod there, and so many of these guys. I'm just running away from them. But here it is indeed, the coal is all the way over here, and we have not tons of water, but enough to make a couple of power stations for sure. Another, and I don't think we've killed one of these before, so maybe let's go for him. These guys attack you from far, so you have to go close and kill them. Here it is. Yeah, I think that was the first one that we killed. Oh, and another one is attacking us over here. He's protecting the coal. So it is a first coal node. This is actually a normal one, but don't worry, there's also some pure ones. And then I can go back into the water to be safe. And finally, what makes this area also quite interesting is that there's not just coal, there's actually also other resources. Look at iron, I think there's 2 quite close. There's one there and a couple this side. Then even copper, there's some not too far away, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, 500 meters, so you can see over here, over there. And last but not least, we were talking about Caterium earlier in this episode. I think the Caterium is also pretty much there. Yeah, it's on top over there if I remember correctly. So definitely a lot of resource nodes that are not too far away for us to use, create maybe a second base, and in particular start making some power. That will be in the next episode. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Don't hesitate to smash the like button if you did. Share any comments, thoughts, questions that you may have in the comments below, and I really hope to see you next time.